10 houses in New Mexico. And the thing that stopped me first wasn't a price. It was a tax bill. One of these places pays $228 a year in property tax. Not a month, a year. Another one pays $327. New Mexico is the fifth largest state in the country, and there are only about 2.1 million people spread across its 33 counties. That much ground and that few people is the whole reason the numbers out here stop behaving like the rest of America. I've priced enough houses over the years to know when a number's off. That's the only qualification this job needs. 10 properties, starting at $195,000 and ending at $35,000. The third one runs entirely on solar, borders a national forest, and has no well and no septic at all. And the last one is the cheapest house I have put in front of you this year. There's a wall inside it I still haven't stopped thinking about. Subscribe to Real Estate Hunter USA, so these land in front of you before the market catches up. Let's start at the top. Property crime in this town scores 21 out of 100. The national average is 35.4. That gap isn't a rounding difference. That's a place where people still know which truck belongs in which driveway. 11.5 acres sit on the edge of Carrizozo, already fenced, already ready for livestock, with 2 separate water wells backing up the city water line. From the air, you can see exactly where the town quits. A last few roofs on one side, and on the other the Tularosa Basin running flat until mountains pick it up. 2 old cottonwoods stand over front of the house, and by 10 in the morning the strip of shade they throw across the porch is the only place on this property you're going to want to stand. Inside, a river rock fireplace climbs the full height of the wall, laid by hand, brick hearth in front of it. The walls are knotty pine, and 90-odd years of afternoon sun have taken them the color of weak tea. There's a gas heater set into firebox, which tells you how people actually get through January here. You light the room for the look, and you run the gas for the heat. Then there's the room that gives the whole place away. Somebody built a curved wooden bar across the middle of it by hand, shaped to fit, marble on top, and then spent 40 years filling the front of it with framed photographs. A wagon wheel chandelier hangs over the whole thing. A matching curved bookcase is built into the corner. Nothing in that room was bought as a set, and nothing in it is leaving. The bedroom is wood on every wall. A cedar chest at the foot of the bed. 2 windows that put light on the boards before the day turns hot. 1 bathroom, sage green, sliding glass over the tub, dated and completely intact. The listing calls it comfortable living, and it is, but I call it a house that quit updating itself around the time that wall phone was new. Out back, the workshop is the size of a small house with a studio space above it. The barn beside it has translucent panels set into metal roof, so at midday the floor lights itself. Chains and hand tools still hanging where the last owner left them. Carrizozo holds under 1,000 people, down in the Tularosa Basin with mountains on the skyline in 2 directions. $195,000, and the property tax is $900 a year. The typical house in this town sells around $146,300. This one is above that, and it should be, because the typical house in this town doesn't come with 11 acres, a barn, a workshop, and 2 wells. Worth knowing, the seller will part with a house separately from the land. The next one costs $35,000 less, and the listing swears it feels like a log cabin in the woods. The listing says this one feels like a log cabin in the woods. The logs are real. The woods are doing some imagining. What's actually out here is Chihuahuan desert hillside, creosote and dry brush, 5 acres of it running up into the hills behind the house. Past the chain link, the ground drops away and doesn't come back up until it hits a ridge on the far side of the valley. It's the kind of view where you can watch a storm arrive an hour before it gets to you, and there isn't a tree in the way to argue about it. The house is long and low, real log walls, a white posted porch running the entire front. Step inside and the ceiling opens up. Dark beams overhead, log walls, and 1 long white kitchen running the length of them, with a gas range, a hood, a dishwasher, subway tile, and pendant lights over a turn-leg island. You can stand at that stove and still be in the same room as everybody else. Now, the part the photos don't hide. Some of this house is finished to a level you would not expect at this price, and some of it is down to bare studs with daylight coming through the frame. Somebody started a renovation here and stopped partway. The advantage is that nothing is buried behind drywall. You can see precisely what you're buying, and you can price it before you sign anything. Off the kitchen, there's a laundry room with a window over machines, and in spring when the fruit trees blooms right in front of it with a mountain sitting behind. That isn't an accident either. The listing mentions buried irrigation on timers running to all of those trees. The last owner thought about them properly. The bathroom is new. New vanity, new shower, farmhouse lights, and it's the clearest sign of where the money went before the work stopped. The bedrooms are plain. Tile floors, window units, good square walls, and by late afternoon in summer you'll be grateful every one of them has its own unit. Outside there are 3 sheds and a greenhouse frame. The shed nearest the house has its own buried 240-volt line, closed cell foam insulation, and 18,000 BTU mini-split heat pump. It was built as a grow room. What it actually is now is the only climate-controlled outbuilding on this entire list. Williamsburg sits inside Truth or Consequences, 11 minutes from the Supercenter and 10 from downtown. And the typical home here runs about $134,200. There's a septic system from July 2022, a 200-amp panel on a new pole, reverse osmosis under the kitchen sink, and fiber internet at the road. $160,000 for 5 acres, a half-finished log house, and a heated shed. The next one has 20 acres and no utility company at all. 20 acres outside Tres Piedras. And there is not one thing on this property that plugs into a grid. The land is flat sagebrush running out in every direction, genuinely 360 degrees of it, until a volcanic cone breaks the horizon and a mountain range stacks up behind that. One boundary of this parcel touches Carson National Forest, which means the open feeling around you isn't luck. The ground next door can't be built on. 2 corrals are already fenced, one about 2.76 acres and a second around 1.65 with steel wire mesh, ready for sheep or whatever else you turn out. The living quarters are 600 square feet, and every surface in them was a decision. Yellow pine on the ceiling, red painted concrete under your boots, and walls that go turquoise, then mustard, then flowered wallpaper, depending which way you turn. Corrugated tin runs as wainscot and as the backing of the shelves. The kitchen corner is where this place stops being quirky and starts being serious. There's an antique cast iron cookstove in it, nickel trim, scroll work, pipe running straight up through the pine, and kerosene lamps on the shelf beside it. Those lamps are not decoration. When the sun drops behind the mesa and the battery bank is low, that shelf is the lighting plan. Power comes from 6 255-watt panels on a pole out in the sage, wired into a bank of 16 batteries. 6 panels and 16 batteries. The entire grid on this property. There is no other one. There's no well and no septic either. A cistern and a composting toilet instead. Out here you are the utility company, and you should want that before you make an offer. Come January, you'll be watching a battery meter the way other people watch the weather. The barn runs about 1,260 square feet, and roughly 160 of that is a fully heated workshop with a long bench and a window, a wood stove in the corner, and a black Puebloan band painted around the plaster at knee height. Things got made in that room. The attached garage came with the tools, still sitting on the shelves. $143,000, and the property tax is $327 a year, the second lowest number on this list. Now, $217 a square foot is the highest per foot price here, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. You aren't paying for the house. You're paying for 20 acres, a forest boundary, a barn, and a power system that's already installed. The next one is the only house on this list whose price went up. Every other house here has been marked down. This one went up $9,000, and the seller did that on purpose. Here's what's behind it. A new well went in this February, and the septic was inspected the month before that, on a place a good distance out of town. Those 2 lines matter more than anything you'll find inside the house. The lot is a full fenced acre. The last owner stacked a low wall of desert rock around front by hand, painted a dead tree turquoise, and set metal birds along the top of it. Past the fence, there is nothing between you and the Florida mountains. And on a clear night out here, the sky does exactly what the listing promises. The house is a 1964 ranch, part white siding and part rough local stone, low and long under a shallow roof. It's empty inside, so what you notice first is a light. Thin curtains on the west side, and rooms that go gold in the late afternoon whether you ask them to or not. A southwestern border runs the walls near the ceiling and has clearly been up there a very long time. One bedroom has the desert painted across all four walls, floor to ceiling. Blue sky, brown rock, yellow ground, green brush. The same mountains you can see out the window, done by hand. In the morning, the painted sky on the east wall picks up the real light coming through the glass. Whoever lived here wanted the view inside, as well as out. The kitchen is 1964, and nobody has touched it. Honey-colored cabinets with scalloped trim, a wood counter, a butcher block island, and an amber glass lantern in wrought iron hanging over it. The tile behind the sink has pheasants on it. You could not buy that on purpose today. The bathroom is mint green head to toe, tub, sink and white square tile, dated and none of it broken. The carpets are worn through in places, and they're the honest repair list. The attached garage is where this house actually runs from. Water heater, pressure tank, laundry sink, washer and dryer, and a chest freezer, all lined up along one wall. Deming started as a railroad town in 1881, and the trains never left. More than 50 freight trains still pass through every day. Amtrak stops here, and most of the area's green chili crop is processed in town. The Great American Duck Race brings people in every August. I'll give you the other side, too. Property crime here scores 65.3 against a national average of 35.4, and that is the highest number on this list. $89,000 against a typical Deming home at $114,200, with a $540 tax bill and an acre underneath it. The next house is the newest one here by more than 40 years. Every other house on this list was built between 1900 and 1979. This one went up in 2001, and that by itself changes what you're buying. It sits on an acre Quay County with nothing built between it and the horizon in either direction. For young trees stand in the front yard, and lying in the grass between them is an old creosote-blackened railroad tie. In a town that exists because of the railroad, and then Route 66, that's less landscaping than local history that got dragged home. A covered patio runs across the front on rough timber posts, and by mid-afternoon it holds the only shade on the property, which in a Tucumcari summer counts for more than square footage. Inside, the main room has one wall done entirely in reclaimed barnwood, and the door beside it is corrugated tin on a slider. The floor underneath runs dark and glossy, and it carries into a bay window corner at the east end. 3 windows, nothing in front of them, which in Tucumcari means you're getting the sunrise whether you're awake for it or not. Sit in that corner early in the morning, and the light comes in flat across an acre of dry grass and lands on the floor at your feet. Now the honest part, because the listing calls this floor plan perfect for entertaining, and the layout genuinely is. The kitchen is missing a base cabinet, a stove and a refrigerator, and one drawer unit has a broken side panel. Before anybody entertains anybody in this house, the kitchen has to be built back. 3 bedrooms, all of them a decent size, all of them carpeted in something that comes out on day one. Underneath that, though, this is a 2001 build. The walls are square, the windows are big, and the ceilings are sound. The bathroom is a single one-piece tub and shower, tired but whole. Out back, there's a 2-car detached garage in the same faded red siding, and the door was standing open when they shot it. Bare concrete, wide opening, completely empty. The listing calls it space to build your dream shop, and for once that isn't a stretch, because the shell is already standing. Travelers have been stopping in Tucumcari for over a century. Neon motel signs at night, museums during the day, Interstate 40 running past. But plenty of families have been here for generations, and every so often a new face turns up wanting the land and the quiet. $79,900, and a typical Tucumcari house sells for about $77,700. So you're paying market here, except the market in this town doesn't hand you an acre, a 2-car garage, and a house built in this century. The tax bill is $978, the highest on the list, and property crime scores 54.3. The next house has 1 bedroom, and roughly twice the floor space you'd expect from that. 1 bedroom, 880 square feet, and a basement running nearly the whole footprint again underneath it. That basement is the reason to stop on this one. The lot is a long green corridor, hedges down both sides tall enough to close it off, cottonwoods across the back, and a pine ridge coming up behind them. There's a wood pile stacked in the yard and a clothesline pole, and at this end of New Mexico, neither of those is decoration. You'll be splitting that pile in the fall and burning it through a long, cold winter. The house is white stucco with a turquoise metal roof and a metal sun mounted on the front of it. Inside, one room is entirely knotty pine. Walls, sloped ceiling, the beam across it. There's a wide window looking into the hedge, and late in the day the light comes through it, and the whole room goes the color of honey. It's the only room in this house that looks finished on purpose, and it was clearly meant that way. The kitchen is oversized for 880 square feet, big enough to hold a corner bench and a table. The tile behind the sink is peach, and the tile behind the stove is turquoise. 2 different decades, both still holding. Down the stairs, half of one basement wall, is the original stone foundation, dry-laid rock, stacked by hand in 1940, still doing its job, still uncovered. The rest is painted white over a concrete floor. The listing calls it storage. It is the driest, coolest room on this property, and it is most of the house over again. Now, the part you need to see. The listing says there's room to expand off the back, and there is, but what's back there right now is a blue tarp for a ceiling, dirt and rubble for a floor, and the form's already set for a concrete pour that never happened. The electrical panel is on that wall. Whoever started this walked off. That isn't a warning. That's the entire reason this house is $65,000 instead of $100. Raton began as a way station on the Santa Fe Trail, and the route it sat on is roughly where Interstate 25 runs today. It grew into the seat of Colfax County, tucked against the foothills of the Sangre de Cristos. From the air, you take in the whole town at once, the tracks cutting through the middle of it, and past the last street, flat-topped mesas set out on the plain. $65,000 against a typical Raton house at $133,400. That's less than half, at $74 a square foot, for a house with a finished pine room, a stone-wall basement, and an unfinished addition waiting on a buyer with a concrete truck. The next one has 3 bedrooms and not a single unfinished thing in it. $50 a square foot, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 1,145 square feet, $57,500, and that's after $7,000 came off the price. The yard has 2 big trees cut back hard, the way people do on the eastern plain, so the wind is less to grab, and a wide concrete apron in front of the door broad enough to sit on. The photos were taken in winter, so the grass is the color of straw. By June it isn't, and those 2 trees are throwing enough shade to put a chair under. Inside, nothing is fancy and nothing is broken. Fresh paint, carpet that looks new, a ceiling fan, and a tall wall furnace standing in the corner of the front room. On the eastern plains, where the winter wind comes straight up off Texas, that furnace earns its keep more than fireplace would. Stand in that front room on a January morning with it running, and the place is warm inside 10 minutes, because there isn't much of it to heat. Here's the part worth stopping on. There are 3 bedrooms, and they are all the same. Same paint, same new carpet, same closet with a rod, already hung, all of them finished. Nobody left a project behind in any of them. Across 10 houses at this price point, that is the rarest thing I've got. The kitchen is old wood painted white, including a pantry cabinet that runs all the way to the ceiling, and nobody builds those anymore. There's a curved breakfast bar, a gas range, and a dishwasher. 1 cabinet door is missing under the sink, and the shower surround is new, but not tiled yet. 1 missing door, and 1 untilled shower. The repair list in full. Now, the reason this one matters more than its photograph suggests. Portales is a college town. Eastern New Mexico University is the largest regional university in the state and the biggest employer in the city, with 500 people on its payroll, and the city's population of 12,000 swells to 17,000 when school is in session. Cannon Air Force Base sits north of town with an active duty and civilian workforce of 6,500, and plenty of them live down here. Peanut and dairy producers anchor the rest of it. Now, run that against the numbers. The typical Portales house sells for about $124,900, and this one is $57,500, under half. The property tax is $326, and the median household income here is $44,101, the highest of any town on this list. Cheap house, working town, university in the middle of it. The listing says income potential, and this time the data says it too. The next house has the widest gap between price and value on the whole list, and it is going to take real work to collect it. I did not put this house on the list for its condition. I put it here for a number, $31 a square foot. Start outside, because outside is genuinely lovely. Pink adobe under an old metal roof, 2 pines, and a bare cottonwood standing over it, chain link fence, brick border. The street runs level and quiet, and then simply stops, and the Magdalena Mountains start right where the pavement ends. No build-up, no foothills. In April, there's a fruit tree blooming in the side yard that nobody has watered on purpose in years. Around the back, the stucco has come off, and you can see what this house actually is. Mud brick, stacked and plastered, 1926. Now inside. The fireplace is the best thing in here. Painted brick, a curved hearth, dark brick laid across the floor around it, the fire tools still standing beside it. Then look up. The ceiling in that same room is covered in black mold, and the plaster is coming down in sheets. A roof has been letting water into this building for a long time, and it is the first thing that gets fixed before one other dollar goes into this building. There's a red brick wall through the middle of the house with built-in shelves beside it, and a wide window throwing light across the floor by mid-morning. Under the dust, that room is square and bright and thick-walled, and it's the room I would start from. The rest straight. The kitchen is avocado green, overwood panel with a stovepipe running up the wall, and the vinyl already pulled up in one corner. One bedroom is red walls under a corrugated metal ceiling. Another still has mustard shag carpet down, and part of its ceiling is gone with the joists showing through. The bathroom is light blue with brown water stains overhead, which confirms the roof a second time. The back sunroom has lost most of its ceiling, and what's left is lath and daylight. Magdalena is a village with a tight-knit feel to it, mountains in every direction, and a night sky full of stars. Property crime scores 54 out of 100. Here's the arithmetic. The typical Magdalena home sells for about $151,100. This one is $45,000, under a third of that, with an annual tax bill of $375. No wider gap turns up anywhere on this list, and now you know exactly what is standing in it. Sit on that front step in the evening, and you'll understand why anybody built here in the first place. Then walk back inside, and remember what it is going to cost you. This is a buy for an investor or a renovator with a roofer on speed dial, and not for anybody who needs a move-in. The next one dropped further in price than it is now asking. This house came down $46,000. It is currently asking $42,300. The cut was bigger than the price. It's a 1900 bungalow with a glassed-in porch across the entire front and a cottonwood in the yard whose trunk is thicker than the front door. There was still snow on the ground when they photographed it, which at this estate covers a good part of the winter. Start on that porch, because it's the best thing here. Windows run end to end, and above every one of them is a band of amber pebble glass from 1900. Mid-afternoon, that glass throws yellow light down a wall, and the whole room goes the color of weak whiskey for about an hour, and then it stops. Nobody put that in for resale. On a winter afternoon, it is the warmest room in the building, and the rest of the house isn't close. Inside, white walls, and every window and door framed in the original dark trim. Deep, square, the kind of casing nobody mills anymore. 2 rooms still have the original plank floors showing, worn dark and solid, hiding under carpet everywhere else. Between 2 windows, there's a built-in wardrobe with sliding panels and 4 drawers under it, original hardware still on the poles. That's part of the house, not furniture. The kitchen has mint tile halfway up the wall, white subway tile above it, honey cabinets, a floor that went in recently, and appliances that are here and plugged in. At $42,300, that sentence is doing a lot of work. The bathroom is white tile to the ceiling with a pedestal sink and a cast iron tub, original and still running. 2 things to ask about. There's new lumber bolted high on one bedroom wall and an open hole in that ceiling, and the work was plainly left mid-project and down in the unfinished basement. The last owner set an old tub on cinder blocks, plumbed it, and painted a sign on the wall for a dog washing business. The last owner's whole personality left behind in one room. Out back, there's a detached two-car garage, a covered walkway running to it, and raised beds already framed along the fence. Dug, edged, and waiting on whoever plants them next. This is a few miles south of the Colorado line, so the winters are real, but Amtrak stops in town and Interstate 25 runs past it. $42,300 against a typical Raton house at $133,400, roughly a third, with a $635 tax bill and $41 a square foot. And this one is eligible for the FHA $100 down payment program when it's paired with 203K renovation financing, which folds the repair budget straight into the loan. For the right buyer, that the whole house for almost nothing down. One house left, and it's the cheapest thing I've shown you all year. This is the last one. $35,000. 3 bedrooms, for bathrooms, 1,700 square feet. $21 a square foot. Back in Virginia, I told you a house at $40 a foot was the cheapest per foot deal I'd found. That record lasted about a month. Start with the concrete, because it's the first thing you see and the last thing you'd expect. A poured apron runs from the road all the way to the garage doors, wide enough to park 4 vehicles and swing a trailer around. And it is in better shape than anything inside this building. In summer, the sun comes off that apron bright enough to make you squint. Above, it sits a metal roof with a turquoise trim line, a 2-car garage, a separate timber carport, and just under half an acre of ground with cedars along the edge. Now inside, and I'm not softening it, this house is down to the studs. No drywall, no ceilings, joists and wiring and ductwork open above your head, and the last owner's belongings still on the floor where they were left. Mattresses, furniture, paper, a child's bed frame. Here is why that is the opportunity instead of the problem. Demolition is the filthy, expensive part of renovation, and nobody wants to pay for it. It is already done. The panel is in and wired. New water lines are already run through the framing. Whoever gutted this house took it to precisely the point where a renovator will want to start, and then walked away from it. And then there's the wall. Somebody built a wall out of glass bottles, red and blue and green and yellow, laid on their side in mortar. And when the afternoon sun comes through it, a gutted room lights up like a church window. There's a stack of cut stones sitting on the floor in front of it, waiting. Stand in that room on a clear afternoon, and the colored light moves across the concrete while you watch it. Whoever owned this house had a plan, and it was not a boring one. The honest part is downstairs. The basement has standing water on the floor, and a water line marked on the block where it has been sitting. Drainage, grading, or something worse. That gets diagnosed before anybody signs anything, and it is the single most important question on this property. One of the 4 bathrooms survived nearly whole. Blue mosaic tile, beadboard, a tile vanity. The tile work is good and it stays. Melrose is a quiet place, and the listing puts it roughly 20 minutes from Cannon Air Force Base, which is the same workforce propping up Portales at the other end of the county. $35,000. The annual property tax is $228, the lowest number on this list. 3 bedrooms for baths, 2 garages, and the demolition already paid for. That was New Mexico. 10 houses, from $195,000 down to $35,000. An adobe ranch on 11 fenced acres with a hand-built bar somebody spent 40 years covering in family photographs. A log house on a desert hillside, half finished and half open to the framing. 20 acres where the power comes off 6 panels and the light comes off a kerosene lamp. A 1964 kitchen with pheasants on the tile. A bungalow porch with amber glass over every window. And a gutted house with a wall made out of bottles. I read a few thousand listings a year, and I'll tell you what the pattern in the state actually is. New Mexico isn't cheap because nobody wants it. It's cheap because there's an enormous amount of ground here and not many people standing on it. And the tax rolls say so out loud. $327 a year. $228 a year. Those are not typos, and you'll not see numbers like that in most of the country. Go back and look at the third one if what you want is land and independence. 20 acres against a national forest with the power already installed. Go back and look at the last one if you're a builder, and you can read a floor plan through bare studs, because the ugliest house on this list also carries the lowest price per foot I have found all year. 10 towns, 10 tax bills, And not one of them price away the rest of the country prices a roof and an acre. Every listing is linked in the description, in the same order you just saw them. Prices and taxes move, so check before you drive. I'm Max. This is Real Estate Hunter USA. Subscribe, and I'll go find the next state.